The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning, Kern County. It is 5 a.m. on this Wednesday morning. I'm Alex Fisher along with Nicole Gitsky. Maddie Jansen has the day off, just spending some time with family. And yes, we are halfway through the work week, and that means that we have another day of cooler temperatures in store for us.
Two good things. It's Monday, or it's not.
It is not Monday.
No, I am happy it is not Monday. You know, it's early.
Yeah, it is early. Yeah, you need the coffee. Let's turn things over to Alyssa Carlson. She has a look at our forecast this morning, and like we've been talking about, it is not Monday, Alyssa, thank goodness. It is Wednesday, and no triple digits, not even close.
I know. I was going to say, don't take us back a few days. I'm just happy we're at Wednesday.
Good.
Let's keep our eye on the weekend. But yes, 55 degrees once again this morning. So it is definitely cool outside. Another crisp start to the day. A lot of folks enjoying this weather. As we take a look at 59 in Taft, 43 in Tehachapi, 38 in Frazier Park in Pine Mountain Club, 54 over in Shafter, 63 in Ridgecrest. We have some clouds passing in from the south, and those will continue to move on in here today. And with that being said, temperatures today, again, cool, only in the upper 70s. So we have an upper level system riding on in here, and as it does so, it is going to continue to bring us that cool ocean air. So by 11 a.m., only 68 degrees this afternoon, pretty much a carbon copy of yesterday, around 79 in the valley. In the mountains, starting out chilly here in the upper 40s at 7 a.m. And then we have upper 60s in the forecast. But we do have some heat in the forecast now, and we'll show you that coming up.
All right, Alyssa, thanks so much. For the second time in 2 days, the troubled Fairfax School Board met to interview candidates for superintendent. But unlike Monday night, things got tense yesterday as some of the community called on the board president to resign.
The privilege of addressing the board has been terminated by a 3-2 vote, and that will pass. Thank you.
You should be ashamed of yourself. Is that professional attire for superintendent interviews? To wear flip-flops and basketball shorts? You should be ashamed of yourself.
Community members calling on Palmer Molan to dress more appropriately for interviews he was about to conduct with superintendent candidates. Molan responded by putting forward a motion to, quote, terminate the privilege of addressing the board. Before all of that happened, a few people showed up with signs demanding Molan to resign. Last week, you may remember, we told you roughly 24 people gathered at a board meeting to call for Molan's resignation. This all comes after a recent scathing grand jury report calling the board divided and dysfunctional. Some members of the community are organizing a recall campaign against Molan, as well as trustees Jose Luis Tapia and Alma Rios, over their decision to throw out a proposed censure resolution that stemmed from bullying allegations against Molan. A regularly scheduled board meeting will be held tomorrow.
Graduation season continued last night as several local high schools celebrated during their in-person ceremonies. Students from Highland, Frontier, Northeast, Ridgeview, Kern Valley, and those graduating from Continuation School all turned their tassels toward the future last night. Graduation ceremonies continue today and tomorrow before wrapping up on Friday. For a full list of dates and times, visit kget.com, and a big congratulations to the class of 2021. And a reminder for all those graduates, the historic Bakersfield Fox Theater is honoring the class of 2021. On Sunday, the theater's marquee will display a message of congratulations to all school graduates. They're encouraging all students to come out with their caps and gowns and take pictures in front of the marquee.
In your 17 Core Watch, a law firm says it will file 2 lawsuits today accusing former Bakersfield priest Craig Harrison of sexual abuse and the Roman Catholic Diocese of Fresno of ignoring and concealing his alleged actions. Attorney Jeff Anderson did not reveal if the suits allege new victims or merely revisit previous accusations. We reached out to Craig Edmonston, an attorney representing Harrison in multiple civil lawsuits. The former priest has filed against the diocese and others, but have not heard back. Harrison was the subject of multiple investigations after allegations of sexual misconduct surfaced in April 2019. Authorities in Bakersfield, Fresno, and Merced declined to file criminal charges. Harrison maintained his innocence and earlier this year and resigned from the priesthood. This year's Village Fest has been canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to safety concerns and a lack of time and adequately prepare for the festival, organizers say they decided that the best course of action to take would be to take another year off and plan for a comeback in 2022. The annual event is usually held the first Saturday after Labor Day and raises money to award grants to local nonprofits that serve children. Organizations can still apply for grants through October 1st for the 2021 calendar year. If you would like to apply or donate, just visit our website, kget.com.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus pandemic here in Kern County. Public health officials announced another COVID-19 death, along with 63 new cases yesterday. The virus has killed just shy of 1,400 people in Kern. More than 1,000 people are currently isolating at home with the virus. According to state data, 38 people are in the hospital with COVID-19 and just 5 people are in the ICU. Well, this is the last week counties in California are issuing guidelines based on the tier system of the state's reopening plan. Next week, on June 15th, the state will move beyond the blueprint and open everything with no capacity limits or restrictions, with the exception of mega events of those of more than 5,000 people. Until then, Kern County remains in the orange tier, which means most indoor operations are open at 50% capacity, including museums, movie theaters, restaurants, gyms, and places of worship. Well, state health officials yesterday released the final update to California's color-coded system just 1 week before the state plans to reopen. 17's Ashley Zavala is in our Capitol Bureau with more.
While several counties are moving forward with less restrictions in this latest update, next week the entire state can move forward, dropping the restrictions laid out in the blueprint. California health officials Tuesday announced 7 more counties moved into less restrictive economic tiers. In the state's final update to its sweeping color-coded public health policy for counties and businesses, about 63% of the population landed in the least restrictive yellow tier, 36.5% in moderate orange, and less than 1% in substantial red.
Small business owners out there who have spent the past 14, 15 months just in fear and uncertainty are feeling very excited, very encouraged.
John Kabatek is the California State Director for the National Federation of Independent Businesses.
A little bit of apprehension because they're trying to make sense of all these rules. But I think at the end of the day, this is an exciting time for both small business owners, but also the customers, the consumers in our community who will be able to walk through those doors and really start to patronize Main Street again. This is pretty cool.
The blueprint sets capacity and physical distancing limits for various industries based on a county's case and hospitalization rate. Within the last 5 months, as COVID-19 cases have decreased and vaccinations increased, California counties have watched this map turn from deep purple to an orange and yellow hue. As of Tuesday, the state's COVID-19 positivity rate is 0.7%, with about 53% of the population fully vaccinated. After using its blueprint for reopening for 9.5 months total, the state will get rid of the system June 15th. While the capacity and physical distancing limits will be dropped, questions still remain about what masking and other rules might be in place beyond the blueprint. The business owners are hoping the state makes it clear soon.
Our leaders absolutely have to make sure is that these small business owners who are just trying to keep their lights on understand the laws, they aren't victims of the laws, and that they can actually comply, and that there's sensibility as they start to rebound.
In response to this latest blueprint update, Governor Gavin Newsom's office released a statement saying, in part, California has become a world leader in the fight against COVID-19, noting the number of vaccines administered and boasting one of the lowest case rates in the entire country. Reporting in Sacramento, Ashley Zavala, 17 News.
Vaccinations remain our #1 weapon against the continued spread of the virus, and Ridgeview High School is doing its part and will host a COVID-19 vaccination clinic today. It is happening from 1 p.m. till 5 in the school cafeteria on Stein Road. Anyone age 12 and older is eligible to receive the vaccine. You can simply just walk in. For more information, just head to our website, kget.com.
Clinica Sierra Vista is now offering rapid COVID-19 testing and COVID-19 vaccinations. Call 833-278-4584 to make your appointment. But don't delay. Clinica Sierra Vista, putting patients first.
5:20 now, and President Biden heads out this morning on his first overseas tour. 8 days of meetings with world leaders. But he's leaving Washington with some key issues unresolved. Tracy Potts has more from Washington this morning.
Alex, good morning. Good morning, everyone. The president lands at the Royal Air Force Base later today, where he will greet members of the U.S. Air Force before a one-on-one with Boris Johnson, Britain's prime minister, ahead of the G7 summit, where world leaders are talking about a number of issues. The COVID pandemic, cybersecurity, jobs, climate change, all on the agenda as President Biden heads to the G7 summit in Europe. World leaders have agreed to charge corporations at least 15% tax to prevent them from shopping around overseas for cheaper rates. But it's his meeting next week with Russian President Vladimir Putin that's drawing a lot of attention. The White House says the president will lay out America's expectations and Russia's consequences.
The days of the United States rolling over in the face of Russia's aggressive actions, interfering with our elections, cyber attacks, poisoning its citizens are over.
Critics are concerned this meeting could backfire.
I think this meeting is premature in the sense I don't think Biden fully understands what his objectives with Russia are or how to achieve them.
Biden leaves Washington after infrastructure talks with Republicans fell apart. A bipartisan group may still come up with a compromise, but Democrats are also preparing to push through Biden's jobs plan on their own.
We're not going to sacrifice the bigness and boldness in this bill. We will just pursue two paths, and at some point they will join.
The effort to expand voting rights also hit a snag. Only one Senate Republican supports it. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says there's no threat to the current Voting Rights Act, so he sees no need to expand it. And that is exactly what Vice President Harris has been tapped to do to get the John Lewis voting rights bill passed. I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
Well, a new bipartisan Senate report on the deadly insurrection at the U.S. Capitol delivers a devastating assessment of what went wrong on that fateful day. The report describes an epic security collapse and intelligence failures on multiple levels, leaving Capitol Police greatly unprepared for the threat they faced that day. According to the report, multiple agencies had intelligence on what Trump supporters were planning, but they failed to issue threat assessments or intelligent bulletins. And the Capitol Police's own intelligence division, while aware of the threats, did not share the information with their officers and other law enforcement partners.
KGET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
Sometimes it seems old trends are destined to come back in style, and that's certainly the case with the renewed craziness of the Pokemon cards. Meredith Yeomans visits a game store to get the scoop on the recent rush for the iconic trading cards.
Hi, how y'all doing today?
Common Ground Games in Dallas is on the cutting edge of an international phenomenon.
More Pokemon stuff every day.
Pokemon trading cards are spiking in popularity, causing stores to sell out and people to go to great lengths to get them.
And then there's also been people fighting over it.
Target just pulled Pokemon cards from shelves after a fight broke out over trading cards at a store in Wisconsin. Then there are reports of people stealing Pokemon promotional cards from inside cereal boxes in stores.
We're going through so much of it that it's kind of crazy.
Jameson Sachs owns Common Ground Games and says fans waited well over an hour when this limited edition pack was released in February. He says keeping cards in stock has been a challenge.
We've never had the kind of supply issues like this before, where it's so hard to get stuff. We're having to order from 7 different distributors just to kind of keep it where we actually have something.
What's behind the boom is a lot to unpack.
How neat.
Sachs says it's because of social media influencers, scalpers driving up demand, and 2021 marking the 25th anniversary of the Pokemon trading card game. This video is from an NBC5 story in 1999.
Would you use Lullaby? Yeah.
I don't think anybody could have predicted, despite how popular Pokemon was, how popular the card game would be. There should have been some stickers.
While old cards have jumped in value, Sachs says demand now is for new packs and secret rare cards like this one, which sells for over $300.
It's a pretty big deal.
An iconic franchise expanding and transcending generations.
This morning we continue our conversation on fentanyl, a highly addictive, highly lethal pain medication that has been around for years, but more and more is showing up around the country in an even deadlier street version, including right here in Kern County, where it killed dozens of people last year.
17's Robert Price, who devoted 4 months to this story, reports that fentanyl is both deadly and unpredictable because it's often prepared under haphazard and inexact conditions. Here's Robert Price with part 2 of Fentanyl, the Counterfeit Killer.
There's a deadly drug on the streets of Bakersfield right now in amazing abundance. It's fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that serves as a powerful painkiller useful in cases such as advanced stage cancer. But it's now been appropriated for the illegal drug trade, and it's killing people. 81,000 in the U.S. last year, including, according to the coroner's office, at least 125 in Kern County. But it's not simply that fentanyl is incredibly toxic, it's that you might not know you're buying fentanyl at all. Illegal drug operations routinely substitute fentanyl for other opiates, such as oxycodone, because it's cheaper and easier to get from foreign suppliers. And with Big Pharma on the hot seat, facing huge multi-billion-dollar settlements for its role in the opioid crisis, leading to serious restrictions on the availability of prescribed opioids, demand has soared for the even more dangerous illicit versions. Users think they're buying prescription name-brand drugs like OxyContin, Percocet, Norco, and even non-opiates like Xanax. That is what killed 33-year-old Brooke Torres of Bakersfield, whose counterfeit Xanax, purchased off the street, contained a fatal dose of the synthetic opioid.
My daughter, she was funny. She was very witty. We were like best friends. We did everything together.
But the tragic succession of events started about 5 years before her death as Brooke drove home from Fresno. The road had disappeared in a winter fog so dense and impenetrable it scared her. The anxiety triggered by that event persisted and persisted to the point where Brooke's doctor prescribed her Paxil, then Xanax. Months later, according to Brooke's mother, Becky Torres, Brooke was still hooked on Xanax and desperate to get off. Finally, a physician she'd met socially suggested 3 alternatives: the opioid painkiller oxycodone, of all things, as well as Norco and bars of Xanax. And as happens all too often, Brooke's use of Oxy turned into yet another addiction.
She was addicted to Oxy, and then we put her into a rehab.
It took Becky's intervention for help to come. Brooke did get off OxyContin, but then there were unintended consequences.
She started buying Oxy off the street, from a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And then he was giving her stuff that was actually Oxy laced with fentanyl.
Yeah.
So in 2018, she actually overdosed at the house, and I was home.
Brooke dashed out the door that day, oddly agitated, telling her mother she needed a fast food taco immediately. Instead, she went to her dealer. When she returned, she was calm, at least at first.
We ended up calling 911 and we rushed her to the hospital.
But a few months later, in September 2019, it happened again. Everyone had flown to Georgia for a family event. Everyone except Brooke, who stayed behind because of her classes at CSUB. That night in Atlanta, the family went to a movie.
I didn't feel right, so something wasn't right. So I called my neighbor and I asked my neighbor if they could go check on Brooke, but she is not coming to the door. So then I just got this really weird feeling. So then I called her back and I said, "Can you call 911 for me?" Anyways, they broke into the back door and they tried, for about 45 minutes but it was too late.
And now the mother looks for ways to honor the daughter. First, by encouraging the state medical board to scrutinize doctors who prescribed recklessly. Second, by organizing a support group for parents like herself who've lost children to drug overdoses. Missing a piece of my heart overdose loss support group, she calls it.
There's so many parents right now in our community that are really suffering, and it's hard.
What is the purpose in telling these stories? Just this: a problem that has been emerging gradually over several years across the U.S. is suddenly spreading with ruthless speed and intensity. It's the killer opioid, fentanyl, and it's tearing Kern County families apart. For 17 News, I'm Robert Price.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.